I'd like to introduce John Shea, who will be speaking on the topic of the capital costs of advertising on first page placement for new products. John Shea is the Chief Growth Officer at Teikametrics, where he helps brands grow on Amazon and Walmart.com. John has spent the last 14 years helping direct response marketers succeed with advertising technologies. Prior to Teikametrics, John spent 5 years working on display advertising as the VP of mid-market sales at Criteo and 5 years working on paid search advertising as a senior agency lead at Google. Please join me in welcoming John Shea.
Thanks, James, for that introduction. So I'm John Shea, and this is going to be a presentation about leveraging advertising on Amazon and Walmart to secure organic ranking for newly launched products. Quick background on my company, Teikametrics. We provide technology and services to help thousands of brands profitably grow sales on Amazon and Walmart, principally through advertising optimization. So we've got a lot of data to analyze that can help answer questions around how can advertising be used to launch products successfully. What I'm going to cover today is quick background on why getting your product onto page 1 of the search results on Amazon matters so much, what the common barriers are to accomplishing that objective, a few winning ad strategies that can really help, and a method to forecast the budget you're going to need to execute those advertising strategies. And then finally, I'll conclude with a couple of caveats around how this whole process is different on the Walmart marketplace, if that's an area where you're selling as well. So we'll focus on Amazon. That's where the volume of sales activity is, and the majority of this presentation will be dedicated to how to launch products successfully on Amazon leveraging advertising. First thing, and this sort of is an obvious statement, but it's worth putting some data behind it. Page 1 of the search results on Amazon is mission critical to generating substantial volumes of product sales. A lot of research suggests that 90% of sales on Amazon is directly preceded by a search activity. So the search results are really the gateway to consumers and shoppers. And what Amazon's own data has revealed is that 70% of shoppers never go beyond the first page of search results. So the majority of sales volume is going to happen after a search and on the products that show up on the first page of search results. But there are important caveats there. In the world of search engines, there's generally massive data sets around keywords. In thinking about Google search as an example, there are hundreds of millions, billions of different search queries entered into Google every single month. Of those search queries, 80% are informational. What's the weather going to be like today? Who was the 7th president of the United States? 10% of them are navigational. Somebody's typing in a website they want to go to, Wikipedia. And only 10% are transactional. That shows up when you look at Amazon. And what we see on Amazon is that there are very few keywords relative to keyword data sets on Amazon that have significant volume. So we're still talking about hundreds of thousands of keywords. So it's still a lot, but it's smaller relative to other search engines. And at Teikametrics, when we process about 7 million different searches that our customers are buying ad clicks against, what we see is that only 10% of them on average generate more than 1 click per day. So what these two things mean is that very few keywords matter from a volume perspective. And even for those keywords, only a small fraction of the products showing up on the page really matter. So you've got to focus on the right keywords, and you've got to be on that page 1 of search results. And as I talk to different brands, it's often the case that they think their category is special or different. And of course, context can change depending on what you're selling, what your competition looks like, what consumer trends are doing. But the importance of page 1 is consistent across the board. So if you look at brand analytics and you process the top 1 million search terms by frequency on Amazon, and then you segment those search terms based on category, and then you further segment them based on, is it a generic search or a branded search? what you can find is that just looking at organic sales on that page one, over 30% on average are concentrated not on page one, but really just the top 3 results. So there's a lot of concentration in sales at the top of Amazon search results. And this is consistent across the board. There's some variation across categories, but this trend holds true in all places. And so what are the barriers to getting onto page one? How do you get your new product to be the one that Amazon shows when a user is searching for keywords related to it? The reality is the flywheel of Amazon is bigger and harder to move. A few years ago, it was much easier to just start buying AMS against high volume terms, generate quick sales, and secure organic ranking, and you'd be off to the races. The environment is much more competitive now, and it requires more nuanced strategy and often technology to execute those strategies. But the flywheel we're talking about is the ads flywheel, which is how do you leverage advertising to increase sales on a product in order to earn reviews and sales rank, which in turn produces more organic traffic, which in turn gives you more data and allows you to optimize your ad spend and harvest more profit from your products. So let's think about the barriers that exist to getting to page one. So first of all, this presentation is focused on advertising as a lever to drive success. This presentation assumes that you're fully retail ready, that you've got a great product that's differentiated in some way, that you're merchandising that product with the right price point, with the right description, with the right images. Let's assume you've taken care of all of those bases and you want to use advertising to be successful. What barriers exist? The first one to note is that your own brand is not initially going to get you enough volume to make a huge difference. So unless you're spending millions of dollars on broadcast media or social influencers, and it's a truly brand new brand, it's unlikely that a new product launch is going to have enough air cover from the brand to be successful. And you want to think really carefully, if you have an established brand, about directing branded traffic to new products versus your best sellers, because that can create some cannibalization in your business. There's some nuanced strategies to take there, but that's generally not the best way to launch a product on Amazon. So you need to focus on category keywords in order to have a chance. So these are unbranded keywords that are highly relevant to the product that you're launching. And thankfully, Amazon is full of brand agnostic shoppers. When we look at the top 10,000 search terms on Amazon by search frequency, what we can find is that 80% of them are unbranded search terms. These are shoppers that know what they want to buy, but they have not yet decided which brand they want to purchase from. This is arguably the most valuable marketing audience that you can find for your product set. Unlike the importance of page one, the concentration of branded terms in search does vary significantly by category. But even in categories that are heavily branded, toys and games being the most branded category, where a lot of products like Legos or Nerf guns are actually named after the brand, you still have 70% of search is open for generic interest where you can push a product against it. So you want to think about which category terms are relevant for your product launch. And as you pursue ad strategies against those terms, you want to be mindful of how Amazon's algorithm to rank products functions. So this algorithm is called A9. If you don't know about it, there's a ton of information available on the internet about how this works. And my guidance to customers is always, if anybody is trying to tell you that they've got some magic secret to getting your product to rank in A9, don't listen to them. There aren't silver bullets here. There aren't hacks that get your product ranking organically. And the ones that exist are often against Amazon's policies and not worth pursuing and are too risky to your business. What you want to think of is just the basic fact that given Amazon's business model, which is pretty clear, the primary thing that A9 looks at is your product's history of consistent conversions. If you can demonstrate to Amazon that your product sells really well against a specific search term, it's going to be ranked against that search term. That's the number one thing that you're trying to accomplish. But there's a sobering truth here, which is for the most popular, the top keywords, most of which are unbranded, generic, maybe one-word keywords, it's almost impossible to rank on page one. This is very, very, very difficult to accomplish and should be considered when setting goals for product launch on Amazon. At Teikametrics, we study this. We have something called the brand performance matrix, which you're looking at here. It's available for free on our website. And what we do is we look across any different category on Amazon, and we build a matrix of the top brands that sell in that category. And on the y-axis, we chart out the most organic placements in the top three. And then on the x-axis, we chart out the most number of best-selling products in that category. And as we look through that data across categories, and inevitably what you see is that the big incumbent brands dominate the top organic placements. They don't always have the best ad presence, but organically, they dominate for the most high volume organic placements. So that's going to affect your strategy a little bit, and we'll reference this in a moment. When we think about building an ad strategy that will be successful, it's important to understand that incumbent top sellers are really difficult to unseat. So there are temporary ways to take advantage of missteps from these brands. Particularly in the last 6 months, we've seen a tremendous amount of out of stock issues, which present temporary opportunities to siphon sales away from large incumbents. You also may see scenarios where there are pricing issues that result in Amazon crapping out on a big brand and disabling advertising, which creates a point-in-time opportunity to win sales. Those are reasons to have a really sophisticated advertising strategy and merchandising strategy to Amazon, because you can win sales there. But that's not a sustainable strategy. That is relying on your competition to fall flat rather than relying on yourself to generate sustainable value. So what we recommend is to take a targeted approach over a small basket of keywords, and for those keywords, aggressively participate in advertising to show your product over competitors. What you want to do is put your budget towards keywords that have good volume. This helps convince Amazon your product is right for those keywords and allows you to earn sales history on keywords that could ultimately be quite lucrative for you. What you want to be careful to do is not to spread yourself and your budget too thinly. You won't get anywhere. A common mistake I see from brands that sell predominantly direct to consumer on their own website is they want to participate in the Amazon marketplace. They cross-list their catalog and they port over their AdWords account, Google Shopping campaigns, into AMS and just run all of the same keywords that they ran in AMS, hoping that something will hit for them and they'll be successful. That's not a good strategy for a lot of different reasons, but it's particularly dangerous when the goal is launching a new product and establishing a new product within the Amazon ecosystem to activate the flywheel. The other thing you want to do is, while you're seeking out high volume terms that relate closely to your product, you want to be careful not to go too broad. It's not uncommon that I'll talk to an executive or a marketer that really wants to dominate the most high volume term that's relevant to their category. So they may want to serve an ad against toys or gifts or something like that. Those are really unrealistic strategies unless you have never-ending deep pockets to fund advertising. Instead, you want to think about terms that are a little bit more specific, maybe slightly less high volume, that really relate closely to your product. So toys for 6-year-olds would be better than toys, as an example. And you want to know that it's harder to make page one organically on a category term compared to a branded term. So you're going to see more success on variations of your brand term plus a keyword that may define the product you're launching. So these are a few examples here. And what we're looking at is, in the example of the term body wash, if we look at all of the products on the first page for body wash, the worst best sales rank of any of those products that we see is 86,000. However, if we look at Dove body wash, the worst best sales rank that we see is 158,000. So Amazon is going to prioritize higher selling products on generic terms than brand terms. And so as you begin to activate this strategy, you can see organic progress on brand plus generic keyword variations initially. And it will take a little bit more time to earn ranking on pure category terms. A couple of strategic guidelines here is making progress on a competitor term is nice. It's a lot of fun to bid for ads on your competitor in conquest, but it probably doesn't move the needle as much as a more popular generic term. Conversion rates are generally going to be pretty low. So generic terms are a much better way to start with product launches. The only exception to this rule is if you're launching a product that isn't searched for generically that often, in which case we really recommend an aggressive sponsored display conquesting strategy, where instead of responding to user search, you're trying to promote products on product display pages. But those are for niche products that don't actually see a lot of search behavior. In general, you want to be focusing on category terms that are fairly popular in order to be effective. One note is over the last 6 months, we saw crazy volatility in what people were searching for. And one thing that's helpful for everybody who's planning a search marketing campaign is we're beginning to see a lot of stabilization here. So, if you looked at 2019, if you looked at, let's say you freeze-framed the top 100,000 search terms on Amazon in April, and then in August, what you would see is that 80% of those terms are still the same. So you always have a constant 20% turnover, and there's always different consumer trends behind that. But the majority of the top search terms remain the top search terms. What we saw once COVID hit was that for March, April, May, every month you would see a completely different basket of search terms. So you would see what happens in 6 months happen in 1 month, and in May, only 80% of the terms that were in the top 100,000 in April were still there. So the takeaway here is simply that we're beginning to see stabilization, and it's an easier time to plan your business than it was a couple of months ago, which is great. At Teikametrics, as we consult with clients about product launch, one of the questions they always ask us is, how much advertising budget do I need to reserve, or should I reserve to do this successfully? So I want to share one methodology for how to answer that question. It's a difficult question to answer, but there are a lot of data-driven ways to do it. This is one way. Our team does a bunch of different strategies here, but this is a common one that's pretty accessible. So I thought it would be worth sharing at this conference. The first thing you want to do is know what is the minimum number of sales, unit sales, you need to make per month necessary to be on that first page, to deserve that placement. So let's take the example of office products, and let's say you're launching a new office chair. What you can do is you can do a search for office chair on Amazon, and what you want to do is look at what is the best sales rank of the last product that ranks organically on page 1. So that's the minimum sales history that you need to establish in order to oust that product and put your product there. So in this case, you can use, there's all kinds of tools that do this. You could just go look at it on Amazon yourself. You could use different plugins for your browser that does this, but you can see that the lowest ranking organic product that's still on page 1 for office chair has a best sales rank in the category of 2,087. You can then use any kind of tool that's helpful for sales estimation. Jungle Scout is an easy one that's cheap and readily available. And Jungle Scout will tell you that that particular product gets 1,560 unit sales per month. So that's an estimate, but directionally, it's a fairly useful estimate, and we find that that's helpful. So your goal then is, what do I need to do to get 1,500 sales in a month to prove to Amazon that my product should rank on office chair? If you know that, you can then look at Amazon's keyword bid recommendations to see that they may recommend $1.50 as your bid on office chair. In our experience with a new product, you're going to want to do 4 to 5x that recommendation to really establish a strong win rate and good volumes in top of search placement. So keeping those things together and, assuming a 10 to 15% conversion rate on Amazon, you can say, all right, let's assume I've got a 15%, let's assume I've got a 10% conversion rate. I'm going to bid $6 per click and pay $5 per click. Therefore, my expected cost per conversion is going to be $50. I need to get 1,500 sales in a month. They're going to cost me $50 each. Therefore, I need a budget of about $75,000 in order to be successful here. And you assume initially that all of your sales are going to come on the back of ads until you reach that first page of organic listings, at which point you can begin to generate ads that are sales that are much more profitable for you. And you've got to remember that the surge gets the flywheel started. So you can begin to pull back that advertising and then do value-based bidding once you're rocking and rolling. But it's not a one-time deal. You've got to continually participate in ads if you want to be selling effectively on Amazon. And it may take a few months. Generally, we plan on a 4-month horizon for product launches to really move the needle. So you've got to be realistic in your goal setting. But it's also important to note that you could end up spending a lot more over time if you don't think carefully about incrementality and how the advertising is actually influencing your total sales volume on Amazon. So a critical decision is you could originally say, I'm going to go dominate office chair. I'm going to spend $75,000 and I'm going to buy 1,500 sales to rank organically. But then you've got to at some point say, all right, I've got to now just support that product and generate profit from it. So I've got to shift from just dominating that keyword until I get organic ranking to a value-based bidding system where every single ad that you're running is directly profitable for you. And so key questions to ask are, has your sales rank improved consistently since it's launched? Is your product ranking organically on page 1 on some of the relevant unbranded terms that you are targeting? You can use brand analytics to understand the popularity of search and the importance of top of search in different categories. And that can be a good signal to inform whether you need to do aggressive bidding or you can move to more of a margin profit value-based bidding model. And then you want to see, are your own branded terms becoming more popular? Because that's going to be a way to become much more profitable within Amazon. So the biggest takeaways that we see for successful product launches is, number 1, focus on generic, not branded terms to execute against. There is 100% a pay-to-play aspect to getting to page 1 on Amazon. You've got to prepare for that and you've got to budget for that. It's really important to budget for product launches separately for how you typically budget for your evergreen catalog on Amazon. Definitely recommend picking a smaller set of battles to make your budget most impactful versus spreading it too thin. Really recommend being reasonable and realistic about how much it's going to cost you to get a product to page 1. And setting that expectation internally within an organization is absolutely critical. Otherwise, you can underdeliver against promises. And remember, to some extent, you've got to show velocity. So there's a little bit of a ticking clock where you've got to show meaningful results and you've got to show them over a short period of time in order to prove that your product can sell more effectively against any given keyword to Amazon. And then finally, once you're on page 1 organically, the game isn't over. You still need to maintain your position with effective advertising, but you got to make sure that the advertising is profitable for you. So those are key takeaways to be successful launching products on Amazon. I just want to take a couple of seconds here to mention that the playbook for launching products on Walmart's marketplace is actually different. A lot of the concepts remain the same. A lot of the data you can get from Amazon will be pretty useful in thinking about launching on Walmart. However, there are some core differences where Walmart really needs a different playbook. So I'm just going to call out those core differences quickly. So number 1, product advertised must be in the same category that the customer is searching. So the taxonomy and the classifications of products is really important to think about. Number 2, Walmart actually has a quality guideline where it will not allow you to do search and grid advertising unless your product already ranks in the top 128 results organically. And so retail readiness is incredibly important to get right before you can begin promoting products on Walmart. And for the category issue, term classification is mission critical. And then finally, Walmart is a first price auction. So you want to be really careful with just aggressively bidding on prize keywords because you're going to end up paying whatever you're bidding. So you want to be more conservative and gradually ratchet that bid up until you're getting the volume signal that you need to be successful. That's my presentation on strategies and costs of getting a product launched to page one with advertising. I'll be taking a few questions after this. Thank you all for the attention. In addition to taking a few questions in a moment, just want to let you know that my team at Teikametrics is incredibly excited to offer some promotions to all of you who've attended this presentation. Happy to let you trial our software for free, happy to put our team to consult on your advertising business, or actually even to plan out a product launch using a custom build of our brand performance matrix that I referenced earlier. I'll take a few questions now, and thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. So this is John coming at you live now versus the pre-recording. A couple of folks have submitted questions here, which I'd love to answer. So I'll try to cut through some of those quickly. And then if I can't cover everything, you're welcome to join us at our virtual booth. The link is in the chat panel here. So first question is a fun one. Paul writes, what about a product that is a new thing, such as an invention? It does not have search words that are directly relevant. Is there an Amazon launch strategy or due to Amazon's dependence on search for seller success? Is it better to launch outside of Amazon first? Amazing question. These are really fun products to market. So in my experience, there's a couple of things you want to look at. Number one, is your invention adjacent to other products that are selling in high volumes on Amazon already? If so, you want to use product attribute targeting. You want to target ASINs instead of keywords in order to put your product on the product pages of those products and to try to grab sales there. And that can be an effective way to use Amazon advertising to promote those products. If that's not viable, or you want to add additional support, novelty products, invention products are perfect for video advertising, for social advertising, for influencer advertising. So doing a lot of offsite media pointing to Amazon is the best way to launch those types of products. Let's see, what else do we have? So another question is, when you say page one, does that mean above the fold, top 8 positions, or just anywhere on page one? So when we look at that, we're generally actually on a desktop browser counting up the first page of all results and calling that page one. Important to know that obviously the mobile execution there is a little bit different, but that's what we're using as a proxy there. That's also the same reference point that Amazon uses in their internal study that says 70% of users never go past page one. I wanted another question, which is a great one from Will, is I just want to clarify, do the sales from sponsored product ads affect the organic ranking of a search term? So awesome question. So I spent the beginning of my career working at Google on AdWords. And at Google, there was always a church and state between paid listings and organic listings. You could not use paid listings to bolster your page rank and win in organic on Google. That is not the case on Amazon. Amazon's goal of booking the transaction is agnostic to the source of the traffic. So again and again, what we've seen is very clear causation from ads on organic ranking. It's difficult to say exactly how much that affects or if there's a discount factor on ads, but we have seen hundreds of our clients and work with hundreds of clients to launch products effectively using ads. And when pushing significant ad budgets at products, you can absolutely accelerate organic ranking on Amazon. Another great question from Christine is, if the first review on a new product is 1 to 2 stars, what do you do? How do you change your strategy? So love this question. I think everything that I covered in that presentation assumes retail readiness, which is that this product is ready to sell and can convert well. If you've got a single review and it's a 1-star review, you don't meet that barrier. So you've got to address that problem first. and you've got to figure out how to get some positive reviews. There's other topics and I think speakers that talked about that here at Prosper, a lot of different techniques you can use there. But I would say don't pour money into advertising if you don't have compelling reviews, because your conversion rate will tank and it won't be worth the effort. Another great question from Rex, because the Amazon flywheel includes lower cost structure that leads to lower prices, how can we hope to reach page one when competitors are 25% to 50% lower in price? Should I be willing to break even in order to jumpstart the flywheel? I love this question. So much of success on Amazon is figuring out how to compete against super low cost goods coming directly into Amazon fulfillment centers from China. And if your strategy isn't to win on price, you've got to answer this question. So a couple of things I could recommend. Number one, it's important, you could actually use different shelf intelligence tools to look at the price variance of the first page listings for different keywords that are relevant to your product. And you can find the keywords that are oriented towards higher price goods and try to play there where there's a little bit less of a race to the bottom. So that may be, it'll be different for every product and keyword set, but imagine some keyword plus luxury or some modified word on a keyword that's going to be reflective of quality versus price. And then your second question is like, should I be willing to break even to jumpstart the flywheel? 100%. The people that are successful on Amazon lose money during product launch in order to accelerate the flywheel and then harvest a lot of profit later. So you've got to model out a payback window on that investment that's a longer horizon. And that's a different budgeting cycle, but it's really important to get right. Another great question here is, what is the best package do you recommend with you regarding launching a new product with your company? I think those are some questions around Teikametrics' services. I would love to answer those. Maybe a better place to do that is in our booth. If you want to join with the link here right afterwards, I can take that question directly. Let me see. Another question is, are there strategies and tactics off of Amazon that you can suggest to jumpstart a new product? So, there are a lot of tools and there's a lot of innovation in this area. First of all, leveraging Amazon's own demand side platform or sponsored display ad format natively in the ad console are both great ways to use Amazon data to target ads that pull users back to Amazon.com. There's a lot of strategies that are effective there that can be useful. Pointing your Instagram or Facebook ads at your Amazon store and product pages can be hugely valuable. So that's worth looking at also. And then, there still is just, basically good brand marketing is going to drive people to convert on Amazon. So depending on your product, whether it's an influencer strategy, audio ad strategy, there's a lot of different ways to build hype. A lot of things to do there. I think we've got time for
one more question. Sure.
One final question. Okay, Princess asks, what is your target ACoS for launching new products during the first month, second, third, and fourth? Great question. You should always set your target ACoS in relation to your margin and then your financial tolerance to invest in that product. To be successful with a new launch, you're generally going to be bidding way more than 100% of your full margin on that product in order to get enough sales. So you could kind of do the back of the napkin math I did in that presentation, where you can assume a 4 to 5x the recommended CPC from Amazon. You could assume a 10% conversion rate, and then look at what that might back into from an ACoS standpoint and make sure you've got a willingness to invest that way. But then you do want to ratchet that ACoS down to be more efficient across each of those months. So you can start by being super aggressive, foot on the gas, and then gradually walk that back as you're generating sales volumes. Thank you guys all so much for the questions.
No, thank you for a really fantastic presentation. I haven't seen that many questions asked. This is the most I've seen. So congratulations. That was very informative. I did text everybody a link. If you want to find out more from Teikametrics, you can join them in their booth. Check that link out in your chat. On behalf of the Prosper team, I want to thank all of you for participating in these past few days of the Prosper Virtual Show. Discussion boards and all the presentations are still going to be available until December 31st, so stay active there. And I also want to make sure I ask you to please join us in 10 minutes for closing remarks by Prosper Show co-founders James Thompson and Joseph Hansen. It's going to take place at 4:45. It's James's last probably closing remarks. So he started this 5 years ago, and you won't want to miss it. Have a prosperous holiday season. We look forward to seeing you in person for Prosper Show 2021. And thanks again, John.
Thank you all.